Hey, welcome to Bifocal. Today's show's kind of an interesting show. We have a business owner on. He's going to talk a little bit about how he started his business. He's an IT professional, and he's going to talk about some market trends that are going on that he's seen over the last year or two, and specifically over the last couple months with COVID-19. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back. Today's an interesting show. We're going to be talking kind of two parts to this show. We have a guest on the show. We have a business owner on the show today. He's an IT professional. He has his own company called SkyNet Solutions. And he's going to talk a little bit about how he started his business. And he's going to talk about what's going on in the market and maybe some trends that are happening over the last year or two, and specifically some things that may be going on right now in light of COVID-19. So I'd like to introduce you to, we have Mark Kavinsky with SkyNet Technology. So Mark, welcome to the show.
Great, Dan. Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, you and I go kind of way back.
Yeah, we do.
we go way back, right? We've utilized your services for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hey, I know you're busy, and thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
One thing I want to start off is SkyNet Solutions.
Yep.
So how'd you come up with the name? There doesn't seem to be anything relative to technology in the name.
I get asked that quite often. And the first thing that people say is Skynet, they think of the movie The Terminator. It's like, oh my gosh, is this Skynet? You're going to take over the world. No, it wasn't. Skynet came from the last three letters of my name, S-K-Y, Kavinsky. I took Sky and net for networking. So I took SkyNet and I made SkyNet Solutions out of that. That's how the name came about. So it was just part of my last name, part of the word networking for SkyNet. A lot of people, when they hear the name, they're like, oh, Terminator or SkyNet. And I'm like, if that's what makes you remember the name recognition, that's great. That's wonderful.
Are you a Schwarzenegger fan?
I am a Schwarzenegger fan. Yeah, as I've watched all his movies growing up in the 80s and the 90s and stuff.
Who
too.
did
so,
it?
Yes. Yeah, who did it? And get to the chopper. Everyone has those words and those famous lines in that too. But that's where the name came from. Really, it was part of my name and the word networking.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So you've been in business how long now?
It's been 16, 17 years now that I've been in business.
Wow.
It's gone by very fast. I mean, like I said, I remember from day one and making that plunge to where it's at now and how it's changed so much. So
how'd you get started? Were you in IT prior?
I got a degree in marketing and finance. I wasn't even in computers. And I had worked for a recruiting company back in the early to mid 90s, and they're an IT consulting firm. They would just hire IT contractors and contract them out. And I was there as kind of a recruiter and just kind of helping out. And I just happened to know a little bit about computers back then. And we had one computer in the office.
And this was like when? Time frame?
We're probably talking 93, 94.
Okay.
Back in that time frame. So we had the one PC, and if it would break or go down, it's like Mark was the guy to fix it. Because I just loved taking them apart. At home, I would just take them apart, put them back together. And it was just
you were a hobby guy.
It was a hobby of mine, yeah. And because I wanted to play games on my computer at home, and I wanted to make it run faster and better. So
you still a gamer today?
No, my boys play all the time, and they beat me in everything. So I don't even play anymore. I had to retire. Yeah. They're so much better than I am. But it got to the point where we'd been acquired by a little bit of a larger firm, and I started building a network of 5, 10 computers locally. And then a larger firm acquired us, and they're like, Mark, do you want to kind of go out and travel around and kind of put some more networks together? And this is the old Novell days and Windows NT and stuff. And I'm like, sure. So I was self-taught with it and kind of kept going. Then we got bought up by another national firm. And now I'm traveling out to Seattle and down to Florida and Atlanta and Dallas. And I'm heading up all kinds of things. And I'm like, this is cool. I wasn't even doing what I was meant to do. I really enjoyed it.
You were all self-taught.
All self-taught. Yep. And then I started thinking, well, maybe I started better go to classes and learn a little more about what I have. So I started taking some of the early Microsoft classes back then and some Novell classes and got my feet into that. So I did it for a few years, and you get to 2000, 2001. And I had joined a local firm basically as a providing IT support for small, medium businesses for a couple of years. And kind of got my feet wet in that a little bit more. And we were doing like a lot of Microsoft stuff, things with Citrix, school districts, some government agencies. And I really felt, gosh, I can do this better. I can provide a better service with this than where I was working before. I can do this. I'm like, I want to do this myself. I don't want to work for somebody else. I know I can do this. I can offer better services, better pricing, better, everything all around. So I remember when I came home one day and told my wife, I go, I'm going to start my own business.
She said, what?
We had a just under 2-year-old daughter at the time, and a son. My son was just born, a couple months old.
Oh man!
And here I'm saying, I'm leaving, and I'm going to start a new business. And she was basically working part time. She's a school teacher because she had to, with a newborn and everything at home, take care of him. And I'm like, you at least have the medical benefits right now. We have something. I'm telling you, I can make this work. I promise I can make this work. And those first few months, there was nothing coming in. And I remember one of my first months I made revenue, when I made $436 that month. I was so excited. I'm like, I have a client. And then it started to grow. And then it became word of mouth. And those first 2 years are difficult, like any business.
So what was your plan in starting out? I mean, what was your thought of how you were going to get business?
Well, I actually did put a business plan together. I'm very formal and very structured how I did. So I actually put a plan together, how I was going to obtain clients, what type of marketing I was going to do, what kind of sales I wanted to generate, how I was going to break down my services.
How much time did you think it was going to take before you made your first dollar?
I probably would have thought I was hoping within the first probably 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
And it did initially, but there was nothing consistent. There was plenty of ups and downs in that too. So it was brand new cold calling, I didn't bring anybody over from past relationships.
So give me an idea of what you did. What did you do to start the business, to get customers? What were some of the things you did?
I had an old ACT database that I had from, I don't know where I cultivated it from, an old ACT database. I just started making phone calls, started calling people. And some people I had talked to maybe in the past, maybe a year or 2 or 3 years earlier, and like, oh yeah, I remember we had talked once. We met at a meeting once, or we met at church, or we met over at, through a friend of ours or something like that. And that's kind of how it got started. Yeah, come on in, take a look at our office. We got 5 computers. Maybe you can help us out here. And I'm like, sure, And then one of my first clients was a golf course, and went out there and kind of did some work for them. And then another client was just a small accounting firm, and started learning about their network. So it was just making some calls. And luckily, one of those first clients of mine was an accounting firm, and I did very good work for them. And they said, you know what, we're going to refer you to a couple of our clients. Mm-hmm. And that's when it started to go, because now all of a sudden there's 2 or 3 clients that they're referring, say, hey, we know this guy, Mark Kavinsky from SkyNet Solutions. He works on our network. We trust him. Let him take a look at your stuff.
What was some of the type of work in your early days?
It was just basic break fix. Computers going down, they got a server, maybe 5 computers, and nothing super technical. They just want to be able to get email and get on the internet and work with their applications. It was pretty small networks, pretty standard. As it started to grow, I started getting to a little bit larger networks, because I did have a base where I had done project management for some of the larger companies in the area. I was doing some, tens of thousands of employees. I was managing consultant, managing some projects. So I had some of that exposure, but I really wanted to stay in the small to mid-sized businesses. That's where my focus was, because I can interact one-on-one with the owners, with the decision makers, and things can move a lot more quickly.
Well, you're a little bit unique, because you said you started out with a marketing finance degree, and you ended up in IT. Mm-hmm. Generally, those are like at the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Right. What works for me, because I have a business degree and a business background, I've been very successful in bridging. There's a big gap between the business side of things and the IT side. What I like about IT, it's black and white. There's no gray area. This works or this doesn't work because of this, because of that. There's algorithms, there's numbers, the logistics. This is why this works. Business sometimes can be subjective. You're following numbers, cost analysis. But I was able to very successfully, there's bridging the gap between the two. Okay, I understand how the business runs, how it functions, what we're looking for, revenues and costs and all that stuff. IT, sometimes is a drain on some companies too. It's like, oh gosh, we don't really need it. Back then it was a big drain. Now it's such a crucial part. You need a good, solid IT infrastructure. If you're going to compete, you're going to be competitive in the marketplace in your industry, you better have a very solid IT department, or not department, but infrastructure. Yeah. But I was able to communicate the language and not speak over to people.
Did you like that side of the business? Like the business side?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed that very much. I have a passion for that. I really enjoy that, running and operating a business, and That's really why I want to do it myself too. I'm like, I can do this. I know I do this. I have those skills, in business, formally trained in business, but then the skills where I can communicate effectively.
You like talking to your client and finding out what their business need is and trying to come up with a solution.
Yep. Everything's tailor made. It's not cookie cutter. And I'll sit down and when I engage with a client, for example, we'll sit down and kind of do an analysis. Where are you at? What's your systems? What's your infrastructure now? Where are you looking to go? Where do you want to take your business? Are you going to expand? Are you going to condense? How are you utilizing your technology? Okay. And then, we're here, you want to get to here. So how do we make that happen? Is it a phased approach over a few months, a few weeks, a few years? It's all different. So then it's kind of customized to what works best for you. Yeah. Obviously, there's always budgeting. There's numbers involved too. And some people are like, you know what? Rip the Band-Aid off, restart, rebuild everything. Others are like, God, we've done it this long for so many years. We're afraid of change. I understand that. So we will slowly, let's integrate. Let's start bringing some new technology.
What were some of your stumbling blocks in those early years? You remember?
Initially, my model back then was as a break-fix company. Okay, so I basically had to wait for things to break down and I go back and fix them. And then I learned you need to be more proactive and more proactive maintenance and kind of doing backups. And, your servers are getting a little old. Your workstations are getting a lot. We need to upgrade those before. You don't want them to crash, because then I started actually doing more analysis and numbers on productivity and for time. And started putting numbers that said, boy, if you have a disaster, if you go down, your revenue is going to decrease by this much. If your employees go down, productivity
But you're not
decreases.
just selling. That's real stuff.
No, I'm giving real facts.
Yeah, that's real stuff. I mean, those are business risks.
Right. And that's what I said. I can understand that, how to talk on the business side of it too, saying, look, you got 15 employees not working for 4 hours. Take the rate of those employees, the lack of productivity there that you're down, and whatever else they're supposed to be doing, plus what you're paying them. There's so many other numbers into that. And all of a sudden you look at it, wow, every time we're down an hour, we're losing $3,000 an hour.
So I'm assuming when you started doing that, your projects started getting a little bigger.
Right. I started...
Probably longer term customers now.
Right. Basically, it's putting an ROI together. Here's your return on your investment. We may invest $5,000, $10,000, $7,000, whatever, $50,000, whatever into this infrastructure, however we want to go, but we're going to do it the right way. And everything is scalable, meaning what I mean scalable is, do you need 4 servers with the fastest processors in that too to handle an office of 25 people? No. We'll scale something that fits you, but if you grow, we can easily add to that instead of constantly replacing stuff. So, and then we look at licensing and, okay, how do you want to access your data? Do you have a CRM package? Do you have your accounting software? You could be a smaller business, just runs QuickBooks. So everything's tailored to what you guys are looking for. So that's kind of really I really started taking off. Now that model went for a few years, and then I got into what is called the MSP market, the managed solutions provider. This is when it really took off. This became more proactive.
How long was it till you said to yourself or your wife, you knew you had a business?
2 years into the business, when it was still kind of going, I remember a firm came up to me and called me out of the blue saying, we know you're a full senior level Microsoft engineer, MCSE certified. That was
the big certification back then.
That's the big one. Yeah, it still is today.
Is it still the big one today?
It's still a big one. It's shifted more to Microsoft Azure, which I have both of the certifications, but it's still a big one. If you're MCSE level, it's like, okay, you know your stuff.
It says something.
Yeah, it says something.
It's like a CPA.
Yep, basically if you have that certification, correct. So a year and a half, almost 2 years into it, we were getting by, and I was taking out, loans that I wasn't even paying myself those first couple of years because I'm just trying to make the bills.
Okay, so for the first year or two,
yeah,
it's this.
Yep, it wasn't consistent yet. I wasn't getting recurring revenue with clients.
You were making money when you had a project.
Right, and then it was done, that was the end of it. And then I would get 2 clients, and then maybe 3, and then, it wasn't consistent. So I had been offered another position and I thought about it, and I actually went there for a couple of days, and I sat there and they had no work for me. And I remember looking around, I'm like, they're paying me a wonderful salary. And I remember it was a 6-figure income. And I went back home, told my wife, I go, I can't do this. She's like, you're nuts. She goes, what is wrong? I go, I'm telling you in my heart, in my gut, this is wrong. I guarantee, I go, give me 3 more months. Give me 3 more months. I'm going to really make this work. So I went back to my current clients that I had, and I started putting proposals together saying, look, we can do more services. We can do this and more recurring. Well, I will be on site more often. I'm going to do more maintenance and more kind of keep an eye out over things proactively, checking on your auditing and your licensing. I'm going to run security scans. All of a sudden things opened up and clients were like, yeah, we want that. Yep, we want that. And with 3 months, I did it. All of a sudden now I had a steady income stream coming. So now it's like that worked. If I'll never forget,
Well, it sounds like you went from project related stuff to now you're part of people's companies.
Yes.
You're part of their planning.
Right. And that's what I want to be a part of. It's the long-term relationships. And many clients I've had for 10, 12, 14 years, I've had for years, is those long relationships. I know their infrastructure. It's like yours, for example. I built that infrastructure. I know how it works in the ins and outs.
You're an asset for them now.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So, and that's what I look for. When I engage with clients and when we're with them, I'm not looking there to be there for a project. I'm looking to hopefully be with you as a partner for years down the line.
In that first year, 2 years, was there a point you said, man, I don't know if I made the right decision. I don't know if this is going to go?
A couple times when you have those dark days, you think that. You're like, did I make the right decision? But very quickly it came where I knew, I'm like, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what I was meant to do. And it never became more clear, as I said, when I looked at that position with a larger consulting firm. And I sat there for 3 or 4 days in that office. And I just said, I go, there's no way. I go, I can't do this anymore. This is not what I want. I go, I will do whatever it takes.
Could you see yourself working for anybody now?
No, I get that asked all the time. No, I couldn't. I work for my clients, but there's it's a two-way street here too. It's not an employer-employee thing. Sure, my clients are my boss as well. I always see it that way because I'm always trying to make sure my service is up to par. It's always there. I have very good response times. I'm always on top of things. People are amazed. Like, my gosh, you got back so quick.
How do you handle though when your client says, Mark, I want to do this, and you say, oh, man, I wouldn't recommend that, and they say, yeah, I know, but this is what I'm going to do. How do you take a stance, or do you take a stance, or do you take it to a certain point and then you finally say, hey, I've told them everything.
Yep.
This is the direct. How do you walk through that?
I've had those instances. The number of clients and industries I've worked in over the years, again, I do a lot with accounting firms, financial firms, manufacturers, title agencies, medical offices, a whole spectrum of industries I've seen. And each one has its own different way of doing it, different nuances. Many have different regulations, ISO, HIPAA, Sarbanes-Oxley, and you have to know those regulations. SEC with financial companies I work with too on the reporting of all their information, how things are so locked down, secured. Tax offices and all their information from clients and, ID numbers and social security numbers and stuff, medical, offices. So everything's very different with that. And so when I have a client that will approach me saying, I really want to do this, I will be very upfront and blunt and honest saying, that's probably not the best decision. I don't agree with that. And I go, let me understand what you're thinking first, because I understand I want to know where you're coming from, why you're thinking this. Is it something you read, something you heard, just a buzzword? And let me put that fire out. Or I might agree with you. I'm like, this part of that I agree. We can get there, but let's just move it in phases or something. I had one where one client was so reluctant to run backups on his data. Didn't want to run. I'm like, why? He goes, I don't need to back up anything. I go, this is the simplest thing. It's a very cheap solution. Back up your stuff. Nope, don't need it. Sure enough, he got hit by a virus once. Wiped him out. I go, you just lost half your business. I don't need that part anymore. You need backups. 3 months later, he got hit a second time.
Oh, geez.
Didn't want me to monitor the network. Didn't want to manage the network, keep things patched, keep things updated. I go,
Was it cost? Did he think it was just foolish spend, or what?
I don't know, because it was pennies on the dollar. You're talking a couple $100 a month to maintain, monitor, watch it, or make sure everything's patched, updated, nobody's getting in, all your security holes are closed off, because it's a constant thing. It's not a one-time thing. When you're managing someone's network, there's so many ports and holes and scans. There's so I can scare the daylight out of people of really what you don't know what's going on out there. And I can sit down and talk to anybody for hours, like, you really don't want to know what's going on. My job is to keep that stuff out. And so I explained to him, you are such a vulnerability right now. No. So for a small business that he had for a few $100s a month, just for us to watch it and monitor, he's like, no, he got hit. Then he got hit again. Finally, he came back and said, you're right. I'm sorry. We got to fix it. And I go, will you please let me fix this now? I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and this is what you're going to do. 6 years later, he hasn't had a problem yet. His business is growing. He's doing well. And he admitted, he goes, I was just stubborn. I was just being stubborn. He goes, I'm just trying to save. He goes, I just thought it was kind of a gimmick. I'm like, there's no gimmick here. I'm very upfront and honest. I'm old fashioned like that. I like doing things with a handshake as well too. I look people in the eye. Very, very honest. And that's just how I am. Very dependable, loyal. But I will tell you, that's not the way you want to do this. There's multiple ways to run and do things. I understand that. I use my proven methodologies, which works, but I'm also very agile. I realize things are changing daily, and you got to shift with that. You got to be on top of that.
Your business is a little, or I say your business or you. Mm-hmm. You're a little bit unique in the stamp. You said you've been in business how long now?
It's been about 2003. Yeah, 17 years now.
And it's you.
Yes.
It's you.
Yes.
You've never brought in employees?
I have been on the brink a couple of times, and with how things are going in the next year or two, most likely I will be, but I purposely have not. I did it on purpose.
Yeah. What's the reason?
Because I wanted to maintain that level of service and that level of expertise and that relationship with the clients. I've always maintained a nice steady stream with clients over the years, and long-lasting ones. And those relationships mean everything to me. They really do. And there's been clients where, they'll call me up on the weekends or something, or have a 5-minute question. And I'll answer. I'll take care of it for them. And I'm not an attorney, so my meter's not running like that. I don't operate that way. Very honest, very upfront with them. So there's been many times. I remember one time you and I had a conversation about I'm going to go this route because I was getting really, really busy. But I want to make sure it's sustained for a number of months. And as soon as I felt that I couldn't get back to my clients quick enough, meaning within like an hour time frame, I can't respond fast enough, I'm overworked and I need someone to bring in. I fought it because I didn't want that level of service. I didn't want that relationship to suffer or go down, and it never has. So over the years, there's been some attrition. I've lost a couple of clients because either A, they've gone out of business, they've merged with somebody else, they've gone in a different direction. There's been a number of reasons. But on the end, every client I've received over the years has been referrals, which has been wonderful. Hey, heard things about you. Can you please come in and take a look at us? And that too, absolutely. Do a free assessment, and here's where you're at, and here's a report. You want me to do something with it? Great. You want to show it to your managed solution provider, your IT guy? Go right ahead. Compare it, but Okay. So that's worked very, very well for me, but it's going to get to the point now because I see the proverbial dam breaking here. The advent of what's happening here with COVID-19, with a technology shift, it's going to speed up everything much faster now. People working remotely, specifically what I'm talking about.
As a business owner and a sole owner, no employees, you're always working.
Yep.
You're always working.
Yep.
Especially with the managed services. I mean, you're probably monitoring
constantly
people's servers, so you got to constantly be going in and looking at your reports and making sure you don't have any alarms.
Daily, every day. I mean, I'm up at 6 a.m. I'm looking at reports. There's many times I'm in there patching, fixing things before people even show up for work in the morning.
So you got to love that.
I absolutely. What I love what I do, just such passion for it, is every day's different. Every day's different. It is exciting. There's some stressful days. But you learn over the years of doing this for so long, the stress doesn't get to you as bad. You learn how to manage that stress. You're like, okay, let's take a step back. Yeah. I see some of the younger guys, and I've had the younger engineers when I have had engineers I've managed. And typically I got to spend my time going back fixing what they did wrong. So my first thought is, let's just get it done right the first time. Now, when I do bring on an engineer, I'm going to make sure he's trained the ways that I want him trained, shadow him for a little bit, make sure he's good, that I want to be able to trust him, that he knows when something needs to be fixed or a recommendation. It's basically what I would recommend to that client too. He's going to be an extension of myself or the 2 engineers. The plan is I'll eventually have 2 more engineers here. But with that, I just want to always keep that, that level of control there.
I think the managing the technical side of it is probably the easier side. Managing the personal side and people who are going to treat your customers the same way you did. All right. These customers are, they've been with you now for a year. They're used to SkyNet responds this way. When Mark shows up, he has this type of demeanor.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, a new guy comes in. He might be able to do the work as good as you. He might be better than you technically.
Sure.
But if the customer's not comfortable with him, it doesn't work.
Right. Right. And that's one thing you have to learn to manage. That's part of growth. You have to manage it. How we're going to handle this. Yep. So there'll be certain clients that I'll feel comfortable where, I'm still going to be integrating with you. I'm going to integrate another person. We're going to kind of tag team a little bit. And as time goes by, they get comfortable with that other person. The personality's meshing. Then I can let him take over that account. If it's not meshing, I can put them out and put them to another client. Or if there's new clients we bring on, as we bring new ones on, introduce them right off the bat.
Yeah.
And it's tag team. It's going to be John and myself, or John, Steve, or myself.
Well, I think it shows a lot that you've been a one-man band for this many years and kept your business going. I think it says a lot that you live it, you breathe it, you have a passion for it. You obviously got to be pretty decent at it, right? Or you wouldn't have longevity and
that I'm guessing, right?
Yes, well, I'm sure your customers are attesting to that.
Yeah.
So walk me through a little bit of today versus 3 years ago, 5 years ago. How have you seen technology?
It's really shifted a lot more as you're hearing the word cloud-based. You're hearing this a lot. And we're going to put our applications, our software up in the cloud. You look at companies like Adobe. You look at Amazon, or excuse me, Adobe, well, Amazon really too, but Adobe, QuickBooks, some of those programs that now used to install and put on your desktop, well, now it's up in the cloud and you can kind of do your work up in the cloud. Salesforce, for example, is one that you use. That's another example where they call it cloud-based. It means it's up in the internet that you can utilize it. So over the years, the last few years, more of these applications are now, instead of being installed locally or installed on-premise on your servers, your network here, it's put up, it's on the internet, and you basically have a link to it through a browser, through it, et cetera. So that was shifting over the years here. And now what we're seeing in the shift too is the hardware side of things. Virtualization. You'll hear virtualization a lot, like a virtual server. And there's technologies out there. It's like Microsoft has Hyper-V. You can look at VMware with vSphere. You can Citrix with XenServer. There's different virtual, and it's an actual, you take an actual server, a hardware, take a box, a physical server, but inside that you can build 4 virtual servers. So they look like they're 4 physical servers from the outside, but they're all different servers running virtually. So what they mean by it's just a snapshot. It's an actual server.
So are you referring to companies are basically renting servers?
Well, they own the servers. It's their server. They're consolidating. They may have one physical server, but within that server, they have 4 virtual servers built into that. And then now one is maybe for their email, one's for their database.
So these are still on premise.
They're still on premise. Now what has shifted is now we're putting these up into the cloud. And what I mean by the cloud is we're looking at 2 primarily services. One is Microsoft's Azure and Amazon's AWS. Those are the 2.
So now you're renting server
Correct.
capacity.
Now you're renting capacity. It's not hardware. Now you're just renting capacity.
So what does something like that do to a business like yours?
Shifts the whole model. Everything's changed right now.
You've been used to going out and installing new servers, installing new networks.
Yep.
Networks have to be going like this now.
Yep. Everything's changing. So looking at Microsoft Azure, for example, Microsoft's been on this for a number of years, and now there's really a big push. We're putting your servers up into the cloud, your routing, your desktops, your firewalls, all your applications, everything going up to the cloud. Now, larger enterprises have been starting to do this more and more. They're putting a lot of their stuff in the cloud. Small, mid-sized businesses aren't quite as ready for that yet, and some still want that physical server. They want it on-prem. It's a combination of things. There's a fear of I don't want my stuff up in the cloud. That's mine. They're proprietary. That's my information. That's my customers, my database, my client information. I don't want it up there, and I totally understand that.
I went through that as a business owner, and my take from that, how I came to grips with it, I came to the understanding that I know that the data I have in-house, I know it's secure based on the parameters that I put around it. That's all I know, okay? But why should I fool myself to believe that the parameters that my small business can do is better than what Salesforce can protect, or Microsoft can protect, or Dell can protect, or all of these big companies that have this cloud technology? I have to believe their backup security is much more sophisticated than what I could even come close to in-house. Now, right or wrong, that was how I came to grip with it. I never felt my data was less secure being out on the cloud. I just never felt that.
Right. And it's not going to be. There was a notion that people felt, if it's in the cloud, am I sharing space with somebody else? Is my data being stored across the country? Is it in Ukraine somewhere? Is it in India? Where is my data at? And there was the concern. I don't know where my data's at. That's what I was getting a lot. where they knew if it was on premise, what we call on premise now is it's here in the office. I know where my data is at. That was the biggest concern. Security is very well up in the cloud.
So are these cloud-based companies? Are they having to disclose where the data is being stored?
No, typically when I build someone that, for example, we're putting something in the cloud, there's regions you can select around the world. What region do I want my data center to reside in? The Eastern region of the United States, Western region, Asia Pacific region. I think there's 30, no more 50. There's a lot of regions now, Microsoft offers. So you can select what region you want. Now, if you're more of a national or international company, you'll have multiple regions if you got offices all over the place, and you can select regions when you're building your servers and setting things up. But for a local business, say 50 employees, for example, here locally, you can put it in the region that you're in the United States, and it stays within that region. So there is fault tolerance, there's redundancy, there's backups, all that. We would set all that up for you, and we would do the encryption and VPN connections. It's very, very secured. It's got to be architected differently than how an on-premise network is done. Now, what we're really seeing, and this is what's going to start changing, quickly here now, is what you call as a hybrid. You have people that have their on-premise servers, their data, but they want to start getting involved with cloud as well. But not ready to go to the whole thing just yet. So we do a hybrid.
Now, I kind of was under the impression that the cloud was getting pretty accepted anymore. You're kind of implying that there's still a pretty good segment out there that haven't adopted it.
There are still some that have adopted old school, I would say, and that's okay. Eventually, you're going to be forced into this. This is going to be happening.
I mean, how big is that segment? Man, that's a broad question, but I mean,
it may be 30%. That's not that.
I think that's still pretty big.
It's a big one, but a lot of them. What my day-to-day interaction with a lot of people,
primarily smaller companies,
right? The smaller ones, the 5-10 user networks.
And your customer base would be what? Size-wise?
My zone is that it's typically between the 25-75 range of a client size. Okay. So typically that size is a sweet spot. Now, companies like yours, I have other clients that are even much larger. I've got some that have offices across the country, and my ability is I can manage their entire network. So
you still have a pretty good client segment that still haven't adopted this 100%.
Correct. I still have some, like there might be a smaller firm, 5-10 people that's just what they want to do. They're not ready yet. Now they're inquiring about it. And so my job is educating them, you know what? And I will say, you know what? It's time to rip the Band-Aid off. Let's put everything up in the cloud for you. Others that are larger are, you know what? We're going to do kind of both. We're doing the hybrid. We're going to keep some stuff on site. We're going to keep some stuff in the cloud, integrate the two together and make that work.
Let's throw this out 10 years from now.
Okay.
Did jobs like yours go away?
No. There's going to be an increase. There's going to be a demand because the IT, any type of publication, research that you see, and I stay on top of these things pretty frequently as well too. The market and the demand, and anybody's looking to get an IT, it's a great idea because there's going to be such more demand now. There is such a demand for applications developers developing apps, whether it's apps on your iPhone, for example, or applications for businesses.
But that's not your business, though.
No,
you're on the networking side.
I'm
referring to
infrastructure.
So
right.
What happens to that business?
Okay, so what happens, even though we're building your network up into the cloud, someone still has to manage and run that. You can't expect a small business owner saying, okay, we've moved you to the cloud, we've set you up, and wash your hands. It's the same as with an on-premise network. You can't just build and walk away, you're good to go. That thing still has to be maintained, updated. Your servers are still taken care of. You still got to do all your patches, your fixes. You still have antivirus. You still have firewalls and all kinds of things going on.
I'm going to get real extreme because I'm sure there's questions like this.
Sure.
I'm a small business owner. I have 12 people. And I run QuickBooks and I use Office 365.
Okay.
Do I even need a server in my office at all?
I'm sure you're going to have. Do you need the server? There's a yes and a no. I could say no is because if you've just got like some simple Word docs, Excel spreadsheets, PDF files, you could put it up into SharePoint or Microsoft OneDrive. Okay, there's OneDrive for business. There's SharePoint, which is meant more for business. You can put all your files up in SharePoint, and your users can all access those files through the internet anywhere, from home, anywhere that they can authenticate to. So now people have virtual offices. They don't have to be in an office anymore. I can be on the beach in Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. I can be in Orlando, Florida, or Dallas, Texas, and still access all my information. It's wonderful. But there are some clients that may have more sensitive data, whether it's more tax records, more financial information, some medical information. They want to be very careful of that they don't want out there unsure of where it's going to be. So, or there's old archive data. They can put archive data in the clouds. For example, I have a couple architectural firms. They don't want to waste storage space paying for monthly storage of terabytes of data of CAD drawings of all these drawings of buildings and houses and bridges that they've been designing over the years. They don't want that sitting up there taking storage space for nothing. Keep it on site locally. They can access it very quickly wherever they want. Now remember, when you have, say, large files, when you're accessing through the internet, if your internet speed gets a little slower or sluggish, it's going to take a little longer to open up that file. If I got a 200 meg drawing file, that's going to take a little longer. I need an on-premise server. If I need to access things right away, maybe an old file, old drawing that I'm looking at, I can access it faster, quicker. It's right there. I've got it. Small files like Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, some PDFs, some smaller ones, sure. That's
so there's
fine.
A lot of exceptions.
There's exceptions to it. So that's what I mentioned from the beginning. It's not cookie cutter. We have to look at what works best for you, depending on your industry, what your regulations are. There are some industries that don't want everything up in the cloud just yet, or if they do, we'll put it in the cloud, but there's going to be so many other costs associated with that in terms of locking it down, the VPN, the encryptions, the type of subnets, the type of networks you're going to use. There's so many layers on top of this. Is it just best? Is it more cost effective? Do we keep it on premise for right now?
So people in your industry and companies like yours, you're not sitting back right now saying, geez, this is going to put me out of business.
Oh gosh, no. Nope.
It's the opposite.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite because, again, this is a new architecture, new way of doing this. And there's going to be more and more demand for this.
It's a different type of service you're going to be providing now.
Yes, my service, right. As my service has changed over the years and adapted, it's adapting again.
How do you stay on top of all that? How does someone, a one-man, how do you stay on top of that?
I have a lot of extra energy in that too. So I have a passion for this. Whether I'm involved in webinars, online training, I don't go to as many seminars anymore. They don't have those as readily available, but there's a lot of training, that I will do online. I keep my skills sharp. I keep reading, latest periodicals. What's the change? What's going on? I have a lab environment where if I want to test a new technology, make sure this works. Okay, yeah, let's play around with that. This is constant. It's always an evolution. If I decide to take 6 months off of not learning anything, I would then be behind the 8 ball very quickly.
You got to constantly be doing it.
For the 25 years I've been doing IT work, I'm so used to this.
Well, I'm assuming too, you get asked a lot of questions, and as soon as you say, well, I've never even heard of that.
Right.
All of a sudden people are going, you haven't heard of that?
Right. But first and foremost, yes, I'm a managed solution provider. I will manage your network and will take care of it. But I'm also a consultant as well. My job is to go in there. Let's take a look at your network. How do you have it? Okay, what are your pain points? What are the problems we have here? What keeps you up at night? Do you have a disaster recovery plan? Do you have a good backup plan? I guarantee you, I can go into someone's network and I can find holes, security holes in your network. I guarantee it. Yep. I'll find holes in your network. And it's just not a sales approach. Here's factual information. I could just run a scan of your network. I get in here, here, and here. Now, let's lock this down before you get into some serious trouble, and let's fix this, and let's get you ready as you move forward, as your business grows. And if you're going to start growing here, you need to adapt to that growth. We're not redoing your whole network every 3 to 5 years. And let's do it the right way. So I come in with that approach. I look at that 30,000 foot overview. Where are we at right now? Where do we want to go? And then how do we get there? And I've done a lot of Office 365 migrations, a lot of those. Those are wonderful. Those are great. And I think
seems like that's getting more and more popular.
It's more accepted now. And because once it's set up correctly, and that's the term correctly, boy, does it work well. It really makes life easier for people just to have access to calendars and emails and sharing between others.
And your software is always the latest and the greatest.
You're always updated. You have everything you need all the time. The compatibility is there. It makes it easier.
You mentioned you have an internal lab set up at home.
Mm-hmm.
How often are you setting up mock environments? You got a project coming up where you've been posed a question and you think, I want to set this up. I need to see how this works before I go live on my customer.
I used to have a couple servers when I first started off, that I put some money in and I would just kind of wipe them and rebuild them every time. And then I got into virtualization. I'm like, I'll just build one server and then I can virtually create 3 or 4 more servers and test on that. I did virtual servers and I saved my cost. And there's no licensing on it because you're basically using a trial license for 180 days. So I can use those trial licenses to make sure it works. I'll install their applications on it. Yeah, it works. We don't have compatibility issues. This is great. So it worked. Now, with Azure, I can very quickly build a test network. If it's say one server or two servers, I can build a test network up in the cloud, make sure it works, things are connecting okay, fine, before it even goes live. I have a lab environment. With me being a Microsoft, an MCSE engineer, I'm also a partner with Microsoft. I'm a solution provider. So basically what that means, I have access to a lot of Microsoft's resources and technical tools and their knowledge base, their resources, more than just the average IT person would have. So by being partners with Microsoft, for example, as I'm a partner with Dell and some other vendors, I have access to their latest stuff that I can kind of do a test drive of. When things, before they even go out and release, they go into beta. And so we can kind of see how it works, and they fix it. And I've been a part of some beta programs too.
Where they contact you and say,
Yep.
hey, would you be willing to try this?
Yeah, try this out. Give us your feedback. What do you think? And they may talk to 50 of us. And then we'll have like a little checklist, whatever. We like this, didn't like this, make some modifications. They come back, okay, now try it again. And then things will go live sometimes with the two. Whether they're looking at my feedback or not, I have no idea, but it's just being part of that program, which has been very nice. So nowadays, when I can build a virtual network pretty quickly, just as a test environment, and it's not a daily basis. It could be every, couple of months or something like that. Where, hey, you know what, something new has come up. Let's kind of try this. I might spend a weekend working on something, a few extra hours here and there. It's worth that time. It's that investment.
Yeah. And
And that's part of, as you're a growing business, you're always investing back into your business. And that's what that part of that is.
how have you seen COVID-19? What have you seen from technology? Are you seeing any trends? Are you seeing common things companies are doing? Obviously that maybe they did as at the early onset, but now you got companies that, kind of like, hey, I think we've been through the thick of it. Now I got to start thinking about moving forward.
Yep.
What all have you seen through that whole time frame?
What I've been seeing a lot lately is predominantly is the remote, people working from home now. And this is something that wasn't so widely adapted. The technology's been there, but many people were very reluctant to do that. They were like, well, I want to see a seat in that office. I want that person at that desk. I can see them where they're working.
It's kind of like the on-premise data.
Right. I want to see it. I feel comfortable. I can go to sleep at night and my asset's right there. The technology's been there. With the ramifications of the pandemic here, it has sped things up 10 times. Now businesses are realizing, first of all, we were scrambling to get people still keep businesses functioning. The only way we can keep them functioning is give them access remotely to work from home, where they remote into their network or remote up into the cloud, however they were set up prior to the COVID-19 epidemic here, but rapidly get them working so they're still productive. Sales can still go on and the company can still function. And what we're seeing now tremendously is I've got multiple clients we're running more efficiently now. And what I mean by that is they're looking at, do we need all this office space we had before? I had an office I got 25 people. Now we're down to 7. I got the other, 17, 18 people working remotely. Boy, I can start scaling down. Now, this isn't good for landlords and leases and buildings and stuff and people love the fact that they can work from home. Now, there's a catch to that. There's not only the making sure they're being productive and they're not spending the day watching, Dr. Phil or watching TV shows all day long, actually getting some work done. And we have methods that can actually make sure people are logging in, logging off.
Are you hearing any of those business owners say stuff like, what I don't know is if we're still in the honeymoon phase of working from home?
I've had a couple that have mentioned that. And my only thought is you'll have to let time tell that. You get past that 6 months and let things settle down. Some people don't like to work remotely. Some people they want to be back in the office, and that's okay. If a business owner's like, we're going to have half our staff remote, half in the office, that's fine. We're in the midst. We're the very early stages of this whole paradigm shift. And again, the COVID-19 virus here is accelerated what was going to be happening in the next 2, 3, 4 years has now just been sped up. And that's where it's going. And I don't think we're going back. I highly believe that we're going to get a lot more remote access. Now, the other second part of this, as I mentioned, was there's security. And just having someone log in from their home computer, for example, and getting into the corporate network, if you're not set up correctly, you're inviting a lot of trouble. If you don't have a secure channel, a VPN, encryption, all that stuff set up, you're bringing whatever bad stuff you have in.
It was one thing to get people home, right, and get them hooked up.
Right.
But you're saying there's a lot on the back end that
Yep.
if this is going to be long term, there's a lot that got to get set up.
Right. And so what I'm starting to hear now, and I'm starting to get some questions, and when things starting to settle down here, is I'm getting requests of relook at the infrastructure here. Okay, we got people working from home. How do we do them connect better, more securely? So they're not bringing some kind of virus or ransomware or something, a rootkit, something from the outside, from their home network back into our corporate network. And now we're getting spied upon. We're getting hacked. We're getting ransomwared. That's a big thing now too.
If you had to put a percentage, we'll look at just your customer base, the ones that have gone home, which is probably most of them, right? How many of those do you think are you hearing they're saying, I'm going to keep this at home for a while yet, meaning I like it, and this may be how I'm going to operate moving forward, versus those that say, as soon as I'm comfortable moving back, I'm moving back?
I get that from a lot of managers, really like it. I'm getting that from them a lot.
Why?
I don't understand why. A lot of the managers or owners are like, boy, I do like this. They're comfortable with it. I think they're finding themselves like me. I'm so used to working remote where I can manage a client that's in Florida. I can manage a client that's in Cleveland, for example. I mean, I can be on site because they'd like to see that. But again, as I mentioned, I've got some clients that are in California, Mexico, New Jersey, Atlanta. I may see them once a year or something, if that, but I can manage the whole thing remotely. I'm used to that. I know how to manage my time with it. Other people that are new to this have to learn how to manage their time. Now, typically the managers, upper management owners know how to manage their time pretty well. It's their business. So they find themselves, I don't have to drive into work. I don't have to drive home from work. I don't have that hour commute back and forth. I can work as late, as early as I want. Now, I don't know if the spouse likes that as much. Then they're working on weekends. They have that remote access. They're actually getting more done. Less distractions from the office and other personnel. They're actually honed in. They're working from home, can get a lot more done. They could be very much more productive. And like, boy, I like this. My productivity has gone up because of this now. I can focus. So I'm seeing a lot of that. Of course, the everyday user, that are working on someone's, whether it's someone who's doing a call center or servicing or anything like that, they like working from remote too. This is great. This works fine. I can, just dial in and get things done. I've got a couple clients that way I have them set up to remote in is we've got a connection where just from their home computer, and we've got a secured connection, they remote back into their office directly to their office computer, just like they were if they're sitting at the office, but they're at home.
They're actually working through their office computer?
Correct. And when they work through their office computer, everything's there, their desktop, their icons, everything's there. There's nothing installed at home. It's just it's an icon. It's a remote icon. It securely connects them back to the office, just like they're sitting there. All their files, everything's there. It's all stored there.
Speed is good?
Speed is good as long as they got good internet speed at home. And nowadays, there's no reason not to, depending who your provider is. People ask all the time, what kind of speed should we have in that too? It's going to be
I know when we sent people home, we did a survey.
Yeah.
And we had people tell us what was their bandwidth, what was their upload, download,
right,
and that type of thing, because we needed to make sure.
Most people, if you're getting at least 100 meg download, which is very bottom end, that's more than enough. You'll be fine. Now there's being 500 megabyte, gigabit speeds now too. Yeah. Now, when you're talking about at home, you have to remember if you've got kids at home, you've got iPads, iPhones, you've got wireless cameras in the house.
Everybody's gaming. Netflix,
streaming, all that stuff. Everyone's gaming. All that takes a toll. So again, we have to come and look and take an assessment of, okay, you got 15 devices on that network. Now that's going to slow down your wireless. There's numbers and calculations.
I was talking to somebody the other day and they were talking about the construction market, building houses moving forward, how that's going to totally change because people are going to design home offices and all of the infrastructure that go into that. Mm-hmm. How I'm going to want this particular technology in my office, yes, whether it's cameras, microphones,
yes,
all of that type, right? We're going to have little mini networks maybe in our homes now.
Yep.
It's just changing.
There are some companies that are going to do very well out of this. There's a company I can name right off the back, Ubiquity. Ubiquity, that I use a lot of their wireless products. Very good, very sound, you want to buy stock in Ubiquity, that might be one as well too. I'm not a financial person, but I'm saying they are one.
That's what your degree was in.
Right. But Ubiquity is a company that's got a good niche in the home market and good security, like Cisco does too. Cisco Linksys for home. There's NVIDIA, there's some other ones, but Ubiquiti is a very nice product that I even recommend when I put wireless networks together for clients. I like it. I like their security.
There's a lot of new markets that are going to rise.
New markets
up.
are going to come out of this. Exactly. You're going to see some more really rise to the top as well. And again, my job is to stay on top of all this. You know, people that are trying to run a business, you're running an accounting firm or you're running a mom and pop shop somewhere too. You don't need to know all this. That's what my job is. My job is to come in and steer in the direction. Just like I have a CPA that does my accounting work. I have my lawyer the attorney does all that. I don't specialize in that. So as a small business owner, your job is to know how to delegate the things the right way to be successful. You know, get the right people at the right time. You may have a great IT team right now, get the right people in place that are going to steer you in the right direction. Or you got your own managed solution provider that they're on top of things. They are with you as a partner the whole way there too. They have the latest technologies. But you have to know where to go to get the right people and to get the right help.
What are you seeing from collaboration technology? Companies that are remote now and they still got to communicate with each other.
Microsoft Teams is a really big one. We see Teams because it went from SharePoint and now you're seeing Teams a lot. There's other packages out there that does collaboration, but Microsoft Teams is really pushing this where, you know, you're video conferencing, you're talking to people, but then you're sharing files and, you know, you can be drawing, sharing calendars and stuff too. That one's gotten very, very popular. Amazon AWS has their version as well too. Google has, with Google Docs and there's collaboration. There's different ones out there.
What's AWS is called?
Offhand, it just alluded to me here too. They have their version. I'm drawing a blank to it right now.
Zoom? That took off like...
Zoom took off. They got to fix some security holes in Zoom. It took off very well overnight, and they weren't ready for that to handle that right away. And they had
It seemed to take off in the end user.
Yes.
Kind of the consumer market.
Right. It took off, and then some classrooms started doing it, and then they realized, we got some security loopholes here, and they kind of pulled back. So Zoom's one to keep an eye on. There's another one you want to watch called Slack. There's another good one that's an up and coming. Slack is one very similar as a conferencing, but I like their model, how they're structured, how they're set up. That's a silent one. You want to keep an eye on Slack. But Zoom, it's a buzzword right now. No Zoom. Yeah. Their stock, everything's way up high. They'll settle back down, but they have to fix some of their technology right now. They're good.
How about a small company? I mean, you're a big Microsoft guy.
Right.
What about the company that says, hey, I want to run everything on Google? What can Google do and what can't Google do for that small business?
Google can do a lot for a small business, and I'm not against that at all. The issue I have with Google is, again, it's a great service that they have with everything they offer. Why I have put myself more in the Microsoft area because of the longevity of the proven technologies. But it's security. It's security and it's permissions and who can access what and when. I have better granular control over things.
Is that because Google kind of inherently and originally was towards the private individual, and so they just haven't expanded into that corporate?
Right. Of the three major cloud providers that you have out there, Amazon's the biggest one, AWS. Azure is right next to it. They're right there. Their services are very much the same. Their pricing, their models are very, very similar. So toss a coin, which one do you want, AWS or Azure? Google's there. It's kind of third one down. But they do have, it's just, they don't have the traction yet that businesses want. Personal users, personal stuff, home, single sole proprietors, one-man shops, owners use Google. Hey, it's less expensive. It's cheaper. I can put my docs up there. It's easy. It's great. It's fine. Works fine. When you start integrating applications and you've got a company, 10, 15, 50, 100 users, and you've got other applications and you've got more going on, you're a little more sophistication, you're kind of outgrowing Google, and you've got to go to AWS or Azure. Yeah. Not saying Google's not going to get there. Google's got a great product. It really does. But you're looking at more of infrastructure now and control and more costs and that too. You're going to look at one of those other two services.
How about the company that really all they need right now is data storage?
You could look at Google just for storage. You can use storage for Google. You can look at Azure, just put storage. AWS, any of them will just have storage. What they call as containers or blobs. You just put, whether it's an archive storage Or it depends on how often that storage is being used. Is it accessed frequently? Because there's charges on how often you're accessing that storage up and down every single day. Or if it's stuff, we got 20 years worth of data, we just get to it when we need once in a while. So there's cloud storage.
Someone shared with me probably 2 months ago, that Amazon, AWS, was like the number one, what would you call it, online services out there. And I said, what? I never even heard of AWS. It was like all of a sudden, boom, it's there.
Yeah, a lot of these, when you're going online, buying stuff online, a lot of these shopping places, obviously Amazon uses it. But when you're buying things, you're shopping, and I can't recall exactly which.
But I'm referring to like the networking services and all of that. I mean, it's like.
But it's coming from AWS. That is the backbone. See, if I'm buying something from Home Depot,
they just opened it up. They just open it up to other uses now.
Oh yeah, Amazon is so large. It's so huge right now. Not only you're buying goods and services. Now you're getting food delivered through them. But now you can run your whole network infrastructure through Amazon Web Services. They're almost too much of everything. They're in everything right now. But yes, a lot of engines, a lot of networks that with these big Fortune 500 companies that too are running on AWS. They're running that because it's very agile. They can adapt and shift very quickly. Azure on Microsoft side is doing the same thing. So a lot of these big sites you're going to, especially these retail sites, when you're going to buy stuff from Home Depot online or Walmart or Target or Kohl's, they're run by Azure or AWS. That's what's running their back end right now. It's amazing.
Crazy.
Yep.
Crazy. So what would you tell a business owner's out there right now and his workforce is working at home. He's contemplating, do I keep him at home? Do I bring him back in the office? What would be some things they would want to consider from a technology standpoint if they're staying at home? What would you say, hey, here are some things we better make sure you're set up for if you're going to keep your workforce at home?
There's a couple models we would look at is, I'm going to ask that client, do you still want to keep things on premise? Meaning, do you want to keep your server, your workstations, everything on premise and people remote into those? Do you want to put your network up into the cloud, or you want to kind of do both? And a lot of it's going to be, we want to start combining both. So what business users, what owners want is, do they still want productivity? They want people to they want their employees happy, make sure they stay, they give them a good environment to work in that's healthy, that they want to stay, still grow the business. So what's going to make that easier for them? What's going to be the least amount of obstacles, but also there may be more obstacles, but what's the best solution? It could be not only cost-effective solution, but it's something that makes sense for them in the long run. So when we'd look at someone is technology-wise, I want people to work from home. Mark, what do we have to do to make these people work from home? So I'll look at your current infrastructure right now. Okay, you know what? You've got 15 people. They want to work from home. This is what we have to implement for their home machines, what we have to put in, and they're going to remote into the office as they are right now. And then from there, they're going to access all their files and everything. It's not a terribly bad solution, but that works. It's perfectly functional. They can function that for several more years. They're not ready to go to the cloud stuff just yet. That's what we would look at. Or if they're like, well, do we want to start moving things up to the cloud and then people remote into the cloud and do all their work? Sure, we can do that. That's a different type of architecture that we set up for them. The premise is the same, whether you're remoting into your office or you're remoting up into the cloud. The premise is the same. The architecture is a little bit different. But it's just making sure we got proper security set up.
So it's sitting down and taking a look at their environment, talk what their goals are, what their needs are, and then start throwing some options out.
Right. They may be a company where, they thrive. They have to see each other day by day. Okay, so if you have to see each other, if you're constantly meeting rooms, you want to see each other, physically want to see each other, well, then keep your model as you're doing. But if you can use, say, a collaboration like a Microsoft Teams, for example, everyone's got a camera at home built into a laptop or desktop, you got cameras, and now we can have everybody connected at once, and we can get everything done this way. We're sharing drawings, PowerPoint presentations, we're done. This works fine for us. I think you're going to see a shift in the travel industry for business travel too, because why do I have to fly out to a meeting in Chicago?
Oh, that's going to change.
And I can just do a meeting right now, saving all the travel and expenses, talk to the 4 or 5 people I need, maybe bring another vendor in, we can collaborate and be done. I think business travel is going to drop significantly because of this. Big
time.
So same thing, you can do the same with your employees. Okay, we have a weekly conference meeting. Well, whether we Zoom in or we do a Teams or, a Skype, whatever that meeting is going to be, everyone's logged in, we're there, we're contributing, And then when you're done, go back to work. And, it depends on your office culture and environment. Some cultures where, hey, we need to have physical interaction with each other every day. We're handing off stuff here and there. We still like that model. We haven't shifted from that.
Do you think overall the attention and importance to technology has escalated in the last couple of months?
Yes. Yeah.
Big time.
I think it has. And I think some of these companies now, not knowing, have probably put together a very Band-Aid driven network right now just to get things working.
Because they had to.
They had to. You were forced to. Now that things are going to settle down, you need to bring a professional in to say, okay, let's do it the right way. You built a house. I'm not saying on quicksand, but you built a house. The foundation is there. You're going to have cracks in your structure a couple months down the line. You got to fix that.
Yeah, and that's going to be interesting because companies they're at a point right now where they're going to start making decisions. Am I staying at home or am I going back? Right. And so if I stay at home, I probably got to start addressing some more permanent type.
Yes. Yep. And that's right. And that's what we're going to look at. We have to assess that. What direction do you want is your business going? And it's probably going to be a combination of both. I'm going to see some people going back to the office, maybe some essential personnel in the office, and maybe sales and other.
I think you're going to see a lot of hybrid of that stuff.
Yeah. I'm totally. I'm honestly. I'm putting my money in the hybrid. I'm putting that stock in the hybrid for the next several years, at least next 3 years. Hybrid, both on site and on premise. So some of the migrations that I've been working on, and that's going to be coming up, that we're going to be doing, are hybrid, on premise servers, up in the cloud, Azure or AWS, and a combination of those two, how it works. That's what we're going to see a lot of, and those are requests that we've been starting to field.
Yeah. When you first started your business, did you have any type of vision that someday I'll be where you are today, or was it just like I'm trying to make money and buy groceries?
It was a passion I did. What I do is because it's a passion. I love so much what I do, and I know sometimes it comes out. It can be infectious as well. My every day is different. It's exciting, and I still love what I do. I have no chance of slowing down with it, and the fact that I make a living off of it is just wonderful. I'm very blessed.
You don't feel like you're going to work?
No. No. Sure, there's going to be some stressful days and there's a lot going on. It's like, but you learn to manage that.
How important do you think that is for somebody who may be watching this or listening right now? They're thinking, and this is an opportune time to start a new business. This is opportune.
I couldn't agree with you 100% more. This is the best time.
This is the best time.
Yes, it is.
Okay. But I think you hit on something. You have to love it, live it, believe in it, passion for it, convicted. If you're starting a business just because you think, I'm going to make some quick money here, it's not going to make it.
You're going to fail.
You're just going to fail.
You're going to fail.
The only way you're going to make it, and being your own boss, your business, you got to be convicted for it.
Success is not determined monetarily. Right off the bat. I was taught that from success. Somebody asked, well, how do you define if you're successful? I'm a father of 4. My success.
So you raised a family on this business.
I raised a family. I don't want to say it sounds selfish. Success to me is that I've raised those kids right. They contribute to society. They're good kids. They can do something with their lives, and they're happy. They are who they are. Whether they want to, be a doctor one day, whether they want to be an accountant one day, whether they just want to be a teacher, or they just want to work in a daycare, or they want to take care of pets, or they want to be a janitor, doesn't matter. The success is that they are happy, they are who they want to be. And I don't see it as, there's nothing monetarily it's involved with that. It's how well, my
You're
success
fulfilled.
How did I do as a father? Now, as a business owner, what was my success? Every night, and I say this a lot, this is part of what, I have an old saying. I read this once on a client's desk many, many years ago, and I remember to this day. He had a fortune cookie that set out, and it said, only the paranoid survive. And I believe that 100%, because as a business owner, you're paranoid, but you don't settle on your laurels. You don't just rest. Oh, I'm good. No, you're always doing something. You're getting better. Only the paranoid will survive. Yeah. And I believe
you're always looking for where's that shoe potentially going to drop.
I'm not looking. If you do what you love, the money comes. And this is me getting philosophical because I'm pulling all these little lines out that I have, but I believe in these beliefs. And I tell my kids that. And they go, what do I want to be when I get older? Doesn't matter. You do what you love to do. What does make you happy? Don't worry about the money part of it. Just do what's going to make you happy. So myself, where I have that passion with clients, I can talk to people very openly, very honestly. I'm not looking at a client, that's $1. Sure, I want clients because that's how I feed my family as well too. We all do. But I can put my head down at night. I can go to bed at night knowing that I'm giving someone the right information, very fair, good price, but I will support them. I'm there for them. There's no gouging. There's no lying, because I don't believe in any of that. I don't believe that. And it comes back to you one way or the other. And I've learned, you try to cut a corner here, you're going to get it later on. It's called karma. So very, very honest with people, very upfront with people. If I feel I can't handle something, it's over my head, I will say, you know what? I can handle it, but I can get us the right help. I'll get the help. We'll get it taken care of. And if someone feels comfortable with that, great. I don't know all the answers. Even today, with 25 years of experience, I don't have all the answers. I have to lean on somebody once in a while. I have to talk to another engineer or go up to the ladder and say, hey, take a look at this. What do you think about this? And I'm like, okay, am I on track or am I just really missing this? Like, nah, Mark, yeah, you missed it by a long shot. Man, you were right on. You're exactly. And many times I am on there, but it's nice to have a second pair of eyes looking at things, because you question yourself. As an owner, you question yourself, am I making the right decision here? Do I bring on this employee, or do I take on that client knowing, man, I'm going to have problems with this client the next 3 or 4 years? Do I really deal with that?
Yep. Just to make the dollar
just
today.
To make a dollar today. So you have to really think of those things too. So I look at things from different aspects as well too. But again, I love all the customers that I have, the ones that I still have, the ones that I've had in the past. I still have relationships with the ones in the past too. And I understand why people move on as well. And I get to know their families and their kids, and that's great. I have a job. That's my job to do. And again, if I show that exuberance and passion and excitement, then it reflects. And it reflects in somebody that's like, boy, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's happy about it. He's going to be with us for a while. Same thing when I'm bringing in vendors, or if I'm looking to talk to somebody, I want that relationship, someone I'm comfortable with, I can have a conversation with, that's going to be truthful with me, very honest. Like, look, Mark, you don't know what the heck, do not do this. I'm telling you right now. Okay, you know what? I believe you. You've never steered me wrong in the past. Okay, I'll go with you.
Some things, or one thing people may not know about you is you're pretty big into fitness.
Yes.
Weightlifting and health and fitness and nutrition.
Yep.
How did you get into, and kind of walk me through a little bit?
Go back to the comment about Arnold Schwarzenegger at the beginning, where we like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I used to always work out a bit.
I'll be back.
There you go.
There's Arnold, right?
I'll be back.
I used to always enjoy that. And, as a kid, I'd watch, He-Man, the Master of the Universe, these big guys. Like, oh my gosh, I'd get all the magazines. So I always worked out and lifted here and there. And then, got married and played softball and stuff, and kind of let myself go a little bit. And then it was probably about 7-8 years ago, I'm like, I got to make a change. I want to go back to that gym again. So I actually had a goal. I'm like, I'm going to get on stage one day. I want to do, as a bucket list, I'm going to go on stage.
Oh, man.
So I remember I died down, lost like 70 pounds in that too one year, and got up and went up on stage and competed, just a small regional show. And went through the pain and the suffering of all that dieting and stuff too. And I did it. And it was hard. But boy, did I enjoy it. It was so rewarding. It was so rewarding. So I did it a second year. And then I did a third. I started getting a little bit better and better. And all of a sudden I'm now going into my 8th year of competition. And I'm a competitive bodybuilder. Not many IT guys that you consider competitive bodybuilders. I'm in the masters category. And my goal, believe it or not, is going to national level. And I qualified for nationals 2 years in a row. I do hope to do a couple shows this year. I know with the COVID-19 things have been delayed, but I'm a little drawn down a little bit now as I usually am. I'm down like 45 pounds what I usually am, but I'm very avid in health and fitness. So again, as I'm a competitive bodybuilder, but I do a lot of diet, nutrition as well. I've done this for years and years and years, but the last 6, 7, 8 years, I've really honed it and gotten very well at it. So now it's the point people are asking me, hey, Mark, what do you do for this? What do you do for that?
It's part of your life now.
It's part of my life. It's a hobby. It's a fun thing I like to do. But yes, I'm very avid into health and fitness.
Would you be interested in coming back and talking about that? There's a lot of people out there who have interest in nutrition and diet. And
absolutely. Unfortunately, I'm not known for being very quiet, so I will talk for quite a bit as well too. And I can talk a whole plethora of information about diet, nutrition, and health. So my 3 passions in my world are my family, my business, with my SkyNet Solutions, and then health and fitness and that too. Those are my 3 big passions. So we'll talk about any of those topics. I'll talk all day, but all you want about those.
We'll bring you back.
Wonderful. Would love to do it.
If somebody wanted to reach out to you, small businesses out there right now, they want to read, how would they find you?
Best way to find me is you can email me directly at mark@looktothe.sky.com. It's LOOKTOTHESKY.com. So mark@looktothe.sky.com. You can find me on Facebook. There's SkyNet Solutions on Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find, Mark Kavinsky on LinkedIn. And also, if you just want to shoot a call or message to me, I can publish my number at 330-241-9331. Any of those ways will get a hold of me. You'll talk to me directly. And if you want just a quick consultation or just some quick advice or just want to come out and take a look at things, just give me a holler. I'd be more
You're
than
willing
happy.
to talk to them.
I'm willing to talk to them. Like I said, I just love helping people. I really enjoy doing it.
Well, hey, thanks for taking the time. I know as a business owner, taking time, time's money.
Yep.
I appreciate you coming in. It was good. Good to hear your story. Good to hear your thoughts on where you think technology is and where you think it's going. And so I appreciate you taking the time.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it too.
Hey, thanks for listening today. This has been an interesting show. We kind of covered a lot of ground in today's show. We got more shows like this coming. If you like shows like this, hit subscribe, follow us, keep up with what's going on. If you have ideas for other types of shows, send us an email, dharsh@danharsh.com. Once again, you can reach Mark at mark@looktothe.sky.com. And he would love to talk to you as well. So, hey, thanks for listening in. Stay tuned, and we look forward to seeing you again.